So I feel like there are just some things humans are not meant to do, other than with technology, of course. Like with planes, we can fly through the sky, but we're not birds, you know. We're also not supposed to go to the bottom of the ocean. I feel like there's big shit under there that's gonna fucking eat us or something. It's not, I don't know. It just seems a little not good territory to be in. We're also definitely not supposed to spend 55 hours swimming straight across the sea, but apparently this guy decided he was gonna do that. So we got this wild specimen of a human being today. He is a Polish swimmer and his name is Bartłomiej Kubkowski. I probably fucking butchered that. This man happens to be the first person to swim across the Baltic Sea all the way from Sweden to Poland completely by himself. He didn't even have a fucking rubber ducky with him. I think that's kind of crazy. Like to me, I'm not even scared of the ocean like that, but I feel like I would be worried about the sharks and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking roughly 160 kilometers of open water. That's almost 100 miles that this guy was swimming. And he never stopped to sleep. He never took a proper break. He just kept swimming for 55 hours. That is a really long time to keep swimming. And I feel like your body is going to get tired too. Like he was probably practicing this for so long to be able to train to become like this fucking ultimate swimming fucking monster. That's not even the craziest part of this whole entire story because apparently around the 40-hour mark, his body just decided to like hit peak fucking swimmer's high and he started hallucinating and seeing shit. Which, I mean, also probably the lack of sleep had something to do with it too. Like, usually it takes a little bit longer than that for somebody to start having hallucinations, but with exhausting your body that hard and being in the middle of the fucking ocean for almost 2 days, I'm probably gonna start making you see some funny shit. So, Mr. Kubkowski, he's 30 years old, he's from Poland, and on June 31st, he began an absolutely ridiculous challenge, deciding to swim approximately 160 kilometers across the Baltic Sea, starting from Sweden, probably jumped right off the fucking ledge right there, and decided to go all the way to a place called Zuno, Poland. I definitely said that name wrong. It's DZIWN funny OW. But nonetheless, this is not like a race or anything like a relay or whatever. There wasn't teams taking turns or anything. He just decided that he wanted to do this shit. There also wasn't like a nice little boat following him for him to climb onto whenever he got tired or if something bad happened. He was literally swimming completely by himself. And apparently this guy has actually tried to do this 5 other times, but those times I guess failed for one reason or another. But in this instance, he finally did it. This is with no stopping points. You may think that 55 hours he may have had like a break or just like laid there for a second in the water and floated on top and maybe had a little bit of a breather, but no. This guy decided to make this as completely insane as possible without sleeping, without resting. He didn't climb out of the water to take a nap. His fingertips were probably fucking super raisins at this point. And he was doing this for more than 2 days and literally just kept going. And I feel like at some point, the ocean probably would start to feel really, really awkward about this. And also, if the ocean has like some sort of sentient brain somewhere in it, I feel like it was probably like, what the fuck are you doing here, bro? Like, are you still here? Are you still just swimming through me? Like, what are you fucking doing, dog? I feel like one of the biggest things that would make this difficult to me is probably the lack of sleep because obviously humans do need sleep. It's not like an optional thing. Like you can skip breakfast, you can skip lunch, you can lose a little bit of sleep here and there, but you can't just stay up all night long and convince yourself that you're completely fine at 6 o'clock in the morning because you're not. Like your brain is basically running at Windows Vista at that point, and it is completely malnourished of sleep. And it's gonna start having an effect on you. But this guy decided that he was gonna stay awake for 55 hours while swimming, simultaneously performing one of the most physically demanding activities imaginable, literally just swimming for hours and hours and hours. According to his statements, his brain eventually did start breaking down quite a bit. He said he began experiencing crazy hallucinations around the 40-hour mark. And like thinking about being in the middle of the Baltic Sea and you've been swimming for 2 fucking days, you're exhausted, you're sleep deprived, you're probably really fucking cold, and you're surrounded by water, and then all of a sudden your brain starts showing you shit that's not actually there. That's got to be one of the most terrifying environments imaginable for a hallucination, honestly. Because I feel like if you're at least hallucinating in your bedroom or like in somewhere familiar, you can look at things and think like that's probably not fucking real. In the middle of the ocean, you don't exactly have like a reality check moment to see if things are real or not. And just the things that I imagine this dude seeing is like spine curdling. And I guess he did have contact with some support staff who was basically saying by the end of the whole entire trek here, Mr. Bartolomeej was seeing all sorts of strange things. And honestly, he doesn't really want to know what the ocean looks like. And honestly, I would not want to know what the ocean looks like. And honestly, I would not want to know what the ocean looks like after swimming for 40 hours straight because you've already got like clouds and strange waves and different things that could cause strange looking shit phenomenon and stuff in the distance. You got like birds and boats and the sun reflecting off the water and stuff. You got the moon and all of these things around you. It's probably very crazy to be out there. And I feel like your exhausted brain at that point would probably be sitting there trying to decide which of these things actually even exist that you're seeing. Like that's without the hallucinations. Like the waves and all the boats and all the different things are probably confusing in general just with the way it all moves. But then after that long, you're definitely not seeing shit right. At that point, I feel like the ocean would start to look like a seriously crazy fucking open world video game with graphic settings turned to like nightmare fuel mode. Despite all of this, he, I guess, ignored his fucking brain and just kept swimming. He didn't do it completely without the help of some assistance because he was on some Coca-Cola. Seems like he went this whole entire trek craving a Coca-Cola and said he was over the moon when he was finally allowed to drink a bottle of Coke during the final stretch. I guess that gave him the little bit of kick he needed to keep going. And getting closer to the nearly 2 days of swimming, he didn't ask for champagne once he got to shore. He didn't ask for a really expensive meal or anything. All he wanted was a Coca-Cola. And after like 40 plus hours of swimming and hallucinations, I'd probably fight off a shark for a Coca-Cola, honestly. I bet that was like the crispest fucking Coke to ever be drank in the whole history of mankind. And honestly, there's something beautifully human to me about this story as well. Seeing a man go and accomplish something that's pretty superhuman and swim almost 100 miles across a sea, showing that he can survive without sleep for more than 2 days and constantly exhausting his body. And knowing that the thing that made him happiest in the end is somebody handing him a cold bottle of Coca-Cola, I feel like that is just honestly a beautiful story. And I love that this guy did this. I think that that's why I wanted to make this video because it's pretty insane that he went this far and kept trying too because he did this 5 times and on his sixth attempt was able to finally complete this goal of his. Because, like I said, parts of this story make it even more impressive knowing that this was not Kablowski's first attempt at this. And I think that's the part of the story that makes this even more impressive is that this is not Kabkowski's first attempt at this. He actually tried 5 other times to accomplish this, and then he finally exceeded. And I did get this part wrong. He actually tried 5 times in total. It seems 4 times before this one, where he actually succeeded on the fifth attempt, which means that there were multiple instances where his dream could have ended whether it was because of the weather conditions or physical exhaustion or the ocean itself just being too much to fucking get through. There are thousands of variables while you're attempting something like this. I feel like that could just go terribly wrong. Not to mention like shark attack, you know what I'm saying? And obviously he had to prepare for this. You can't just wake up one morning and decide that I'm going to swim across the sea today. It's just not going to work. It's like you're going to cramp up. You're going to be not physically prepared for this shit. And obviously he had support and he probably had people mentoring him as well and got on the right nutritional diet to be able to succeed doing something like this and having the right navigation as well to not get turned around or lost in the ocean. And I feel like most importantly, having the determination to do something like this. Because after like 20 hours of swimming, I feel like your brain would start asking, like, why the fuck you're doing this? And after 30 hours, it's going to be like screaming at you, like, seriously, why the fuck are we deciding to do this shit right now? After 40 hours, apparently, why is this dolphin talking to me? What is that I'm seeing over there? Is it real or not? And somehow he kept going and he made it over the finish line. And after approximately 55 hours, Kupkowski officially reached his destination in Poland and he had done it. And he became the first person to complete the 160-kilometer Baltic Sea crossing under these conditions. And I don't know if there's other people that have done this as well under different conditions, potentially. I don't know. But doing it completely by yourself is definitely like a special thing. And obviously, after arriving in Poland, he didn't immediately go home and take what I probably would imagine would be the most fucking satisfying shower in human history. He actually went to the hospital and spent 3 days there afterwards so that doctors could monitor him and make sure that he was completely completely healthy and safe after his giant trek. And thankfully, they cleared him and said he was all good to go and he went back home. And he also reportedly said that he felt well cared for and healthy and that it was the most important thing to him, which I think should be the most important thing to everybody, of course. But there is something that he said that I find really interesting. After watching the footage of his swim back, Kopkowski apparently said that he sometimes couldn't believe that it was even actually him that had done that. And I believe that probably halfway through that, or maybe even just like on the first day, his brain probably was shutting out everything else but just like swim, 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 and get the fuck through it and get to the fucking finish line with this whole thing. And it probably feels like a dream to him looking back and remembering just swimming through the miles and miles and miles of endless ocean that he went through. Like, I feel like I completely understand that derealization from the whole experience. But not only that, I feel like there's a huge difference between like remembering something that you did that's difficult and actually looking back at the video and watching yourself do it. Like looking back at the footage and thinking like, wait, that guy is me swimming in the middle of the fucking ocean. Honestly, one of the most wholesome things about this whole story is apparently he did it for charity, which I think is a really important reason why anybody, let alone Kupkowski, would do something like this. He wasn't simply just trying to prove that he could spend 2 days fighting the ocean and trying to break some kind of record. The swim was actually connected to a fundraiser, and it seems like a pretty successful one because so far the campaign has raised just a little under 100 million Polish zloty, which is roughly $260,000 in the US. So all of the suffering and all the shit that he put himself through was not just for like a world record thing or a headline. It was also being used to raise money for a good cause. And I think that that also adds a lot of weight to the story and makes it really, really memorable and something that I can look at and other people can look at and be inspired by, because this endurance challenge can sometimes seem completely insane when you think that there's no reason behind it and it's just because somebody just wants to do something. But whenever someone is willing to put themselves through something incredibly difficult to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity, I feel like that makes it kind of special. And I feel like it makes it where it's not just madness and there's kind of like a purpose behind it. And I feel like that's very, very important in this kind of situation. And to me, I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways from the story is the fact that human beings are incredibly weird, but a lot of times it can be for good causes. And that weirdness can be excused, especially whenever it's for the betterment of other human beings, because human beings are really incredible creatures and we spend most of our lives trying to make everything easier, like with the invention of cars because we figured walking was too much effort, and the invention of elevators because nobody wants to go upstairs, making airplanes obviously because getting across the ocean was pretty inconvenient on just boats, and like with the creation of smartphones so that communicating with somebody across the planet instantly was attainable. And then every once in a while there's somebody like this that looks at all of the technology and all the things that are making things easier and they tell themselves that I'm going to just swim across the Baltic Sea by myself, and they actually do it. And I think that's one of the most incredible and interesting things about human beings in general is, simultaneously we're all very fragile but also incredibly resilient in so many things as well. And the fact that your body can shut down from exhaustion and your brain can start hallucinating from sleep deprivation, and yet somehow under the right circumstances the human body can tolerate things that seem completely impossible for somebody to do. And there is an important lesson to look at here as well, and that's, just because somebody can push their body this far doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should. And we have to remember that Kopkowski had extensive preparation for this, I'm sure, and had a support team around him, and even then the challenge put enormous stress on his body and was incredibly difficult. So if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself like, hey, maybe I'm gonna try to go and like swim across the Atlantic Ocean next weekend, please don't do that. But with that, I do want to give another reminder of just how fragile we are as human beings as well, because strangely enough, there is another story that's connected to this one that shows quite the opposite side of human resistance and endurance. Because in Australia, there was actually an 82-year-old man who was a charity cyclist named Bob Montgomery who died just one day after completing a massive cycling journey across the entire country, which was a pretty big feat in itself. He had actually called this ride One Last Ride, and his family described his death as an experience that was very unexpected but was also very peaceful. And in that contrast, I think is also very powerful in itself, even though it was a more saddened ending to this journey. But you can obviously see here that, you have a 30-year-old swimmer pushing himself for 55 hours straight. And then you have on the other end an 82-year-old man that was completing what was intended to be his final major journey for charity and before his unexpectedly passing away, which obviously wasn't something that they were planning on. But I think that both of these stories definitely show the same thing, and that's that our bodies are capable of pretty incredible things and are also very, very fragile, and life is fleeting, and there's always a limit to what we're able to do. But as for the story for Bartolomiej Kubklowski, the challenge is completely over and the Baltic Sea is behind him, and he can probably soundly sleep knowing that he raised hundreds and thousands of dollars for charity and has survived over 55 hours of swimming and hallucinations and also a hospital stay. And hopefully, he's going to spend a very, very long time doing absolutely nothing after that. After swimming 160 kilometers across the entire sea without sleeping, I think that the man has earned the right to spend a week on the couch. And if he does think about involving himself in water anytime soon, I think that somebody should put a fucking fence around this guy because he apparently looks at an enormous body of water and thinks that he could probably cross that 55 hours, 160 kilometers, no sleep, hallucinations, and a bottle of Coke, and that's all this dude fucking needs to hit this shit like Forrest Gump. With $260,000 raised for charity, I think that humans are pretty ridiculous, but also pretty amazing in a lot of the things that they're capable of doing. And sometimes I think that that's what makes everything pretty incredible and meaningful in life. Just to succeed in that way and do it for a good cause, I think is honestly a beautiful story. And I just wanted to cover that with you guys today and talk a little bit about what happened with this guy because it is pretty amazing. And I would love to know what you guys have done. What things have you achieved? Have you ever ran a marathon or done an amazing bike race or climbed a big mountain? I would love to know some details or some bigger things that you guys have at least heard of stories like this where people are doing amazing things. And I would love to know what you guys think about Kubklowski and everything that he did with the Baltic Ocean and swimming through all that shit. And if you guys would ever try that, honestly, or if you guys have dreams or aspire to do anything like that, I would love to know. And make sure you guys comment and let me know your thoughts. Subscribe, ring the little bell thingy if you guys haven't already, and I'd really appreciate that a whole lot. And I will see you guys in the next video.